viewers. You're welcome to this second edition of the Focus on Parliament, a show where we discuss what transpires in Parliament to keep the public abreast with what their representatives in Parliament are doing. And today we want to discuss remarks by the newly elected Speaker of Parliament, Honourable Anita Among, who said last week, and I will quote verbatim, Jacob wanted to be Speaker, speaking about the late Honourable Speaker Jacob Olanya. I want to thank the President who at one point promised Jacob that he would one day make him Speaker, and indeed he became Speaker. And I'm going to stop the quote there and we'll start the discussion right there. Was this an admission or a confession that it is indeed the President that chooses the Speaker of Parliament? And the questions that follow that, therefore, are how does that affect the independence of Parliament that is so crucial, and the separation of powers, or even the quality of Parliament? And to discuss that and more, I have three panelists. I am going to start from my left. David Lumu, a journalist and lawyer, worked with the Observer and currently with the New Vision. You're welcome to the show, David.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, second is Sarah Bireete. I think that one needs not much introductions. She has been all over the place. Everyone knows her, but she's the Director of Center for Constitutional Governance. You're welcome, Sarah.
Thank you, Agatha.
Oh, Dr. Sarah Bireete, I wanted to add that. She is she is now a doctor who
She's in love with titles.
Yes, you're welcome, Sarah. And lastly, we have the former Member of Parliament for Jinja East, Honourable Paul Mwiru, who was in the 9th and 10th Parliament. Paul Mwiru acted as the Vice Chairman of the Public Affairs Committee in Parliament, and he is a member of the ANT. What is your role in ANT, Honourable?
What is my?
Your position in the Alliance for National Transformation?
I'm a member, actually.
You're just a member?
Yes.
Oh, you're welcome, Honourable, to the show.
Thank you.
So I'm going to start with you, Honourable, now that I have ended with your introduction. From the quote that I read here, I don't know if you had seen those comments before. And as a former legislator and maybe future one, what do you think about that quote? What does it say? Is it telling us that actually we have a parliament where the executive chooses who leads it, who stewards it? What do you think about it?
Well, I heard about the statement by the Right Honourable Speaker. To me, it's the ordinary. It is actually, in my honest opinion, does not even merit a debate, because this is what takes place. By the fact that the ruling party has the majority in the Parliament, and he has control of who becomes the Speaker through the Central Executive Committee. In my opinion, there is no way parties with minority members of Parliament will determine who the Speaker is. So the Speaker, having acknowledged what the President, how the President has been dishing out speakership to people, depending on his considerations, you understand. Personally, it is not a new thing. Maybe she fell short of saying that the President had also promised her and actually made her the Speaker. That is, to me, what would make news. But at the look of things, it is like the party with majority through an organ like NRM. You understand? Because we would want to see a competition, internal even for the good of the country, to see how members of NRM would compete, and the country would have the best. Because if one becomes a speaker, you're not a speaker of NRM, you're a speaker of Parliament of Uganda, exactly. And you're a speaker of the whole country. That's why you are number 3 in the country. So having said that, when it comes to whether it affects the independence of Parliament or not, of course, I think the President had been unlucky before, that most of the speakers, they were alive to the fact that they were members of Parliament, the previous speakers, that even when they were presiding over the House, they kept that in mind, And when issues came on the floor of Parliament, they knew that they had the duty, not only to their party, but even to the country, to do what is right. Of course, the dynamics have kept on changing to the effect that the cover-up has been that don't judge these who have come. Give them time. You understand? Of course, I will not pass judgment over them because I don't know the parameters under which SEC, because the Central Executive Committee where the president, all those senior people sit, I don't know their considerations. But of course, political parties change in ideology. When NRM came here, the ideology was development. Later came to propaganda, it came to intimidation, it became corruption as an ideology. You understand? So we don't know what informs the fishermen and fisherwomen kind of strategy. Maybe they want to make, they don't be suited to achieve the parish development model, who knows? That's why you see, we need to look at it very critically, but in my view, I don't think even we have to waste a lot of time on that, because as long as they have the majority, they determine who becomes the speaker. You understand? The only challenge would be now like the opposition. If you look at their numbers and those leaning, they would be approximately 150. So when they went to elect the speaker, the opposition got 66 votes. That, of course, raised the number of issues. Honourable Samju one time cracked a joke that when he got, I think there were 15 votes, whoever he landed on was saying, "Sure, I voted for you." So when he kept on counting, he was exceeding the 15. And I started wondering whether he voted for himself. You understand? So to me, that leaves a lot. It leaves a lot to be desired. But by and large, whoever becomes the speaker, irrespective of whether you are brought in by the president or by the members, one thing is important, that you're going to preside over a house, which deals matters where there's a public interest. The budget. So if you preside over a budget with negatory expenditures, where you're siphoning money to be stolen under classified expenditure unjustifiably, where you pass a budget of 44 trillion, there are no releases for 24 trillion, then you come for it under supplementary, you understand, without showing where the source of the money is going to come from. If that's what they are going to preside over, of course, nothing will change. You understand?
Yes, yes.
Of course, what I wonder, you know, when I was in the 10th Parliament, we moved we had moved some bills. But you see, there was a technicality that we needed a certificate of financial implication. So then the Right Honourable Speaker, Jacob Olanya, then said, gave a ruling that you see, once government brings, now they still for us not to get certificates of financial implication to bring our bills on the floor. Now the question arose as to whether we can bring our views in the bill which had been brought by Parliament. Of course, knowingly or unknowingly, the Right Honourable Speaker ruled that you see a bill is a vehicle. Whoever has ideas, bring. You understand? Including all the opposition proposals.
Yeah.
They were carried in the vehicle and the bill. But of course, after some time, they realized that it was now very dangerous because they had admitted our dangerous proposals now into their bill. So the argument started being as to whether you can amend the bill on the floor, all those other proposals had the financial implication and they required a separate certificate.
Yes.
Of course, the late Jacob Olanya stood firm and said, "No, I'm the speaker and I rule, and that's my ruling." You have the number, vote against these bills. You understand? So, and then so it comes to the Right Honourable Rebecca Kadaga. There were issues which related to the budget, human rights violations, that they would see, they would respect their constituents. That whereas they were speaker of Parliament, they knew that they had the constituents, and that issues to do with the public, actually, they were very important to stand with. And I'll give an example of the fishing, the army on the water bodies. Of course, they've been violating everybody's right. And the president, everybody is answerable to the president. Nobody can question. Even when the Parliament made some resolutions, they were not implemented because you have to go to them. But the speaker stood by those resolutions. We passed them, They went on record. I know it would cast her in a bad light. And when they were thinking, like evaluating whether she would be a speaker again, I think they had to look at loyalty and service. So as to whether being a speaker who is appointed in course by the president to come for a ceremonial function in the parliament, whether he has to follow sheepishly what the president wants, now that is also another matter. But we also don't agree with that notion. You see, the speaker does not vote. You understand? Still, it is the members to take a vote. We used to have issues where the speakers wanted to for NRM, that they want to preside over an empty house. Because when there's some piece of NRM, you see, on the face of it, they look funny by their conduct. But also, they're also wise. At times when controversial matters came up, they would run out, they would hide in the lobby. Do you understand? So they would not come up to cast a vote on a wrong thing. So they would hide within the lobby. So it had to take the speaker now to put a vote on a matter where there was no quorum. So we kept on insisting that you are not the chief whip. What makes you do the work of the chief whip? You let the chief whip mobilize members.
You see?
That's why you realize that most of the controversial matters, they always used to be mobilization. And that mobilization would extend even to some groceries to make members come actually in the house and then vote on certain serious matters. And that's why I'm saying, as to whether that affects the independence of the judiciary, sorry, of the legislature, to me it is still up to the individual members. You understand?
Yeah.
Because the speaker has one vote, which does not even exercise to vote. You understand?
Yes.
Unless he's curtailing matters to come on the order paper. You understand? Of course, the controls would be there, that if you want to raise a matter of national importance, you go to the speaker. And if the speaker thinks it's not in the interest of his or her government, he can not refuse to give you space. If you have a motion still, it's with the leave of the speaker. It is only in those circumstances that if the speaker, he or she decided to conduct himself in a manner which does not make him more knowledgeable of what he or she is supposed to do. You understand? And of course, the public would know. So want to see the motion which are brought by the opposition, deny the space on other people.
Yeah.
You understand? The matter of national importance are brought and denied. So I think we would judge the speaker at that point.
Okay.
As to whether he or she is independent or not.
Okay. Sarah, I'm going to come to you, and the word Honourable Mwiru uses is appointed, and he's saying that what Anita Mong was saying was the obvious. And if it is the obvious, you are a constitutional law expert here. What does that do to the doctrine of separation of powers, where you really want to prevent excesses of one arm over the other? And what are the dangers that we are facing if that's the trend that has become acceptable?
Well, if you look at the ideal doctrine of separation of powers, it assumes that the three arms of government, the judiciary, executive, and the legislature, will work independent of each other. And the purpose of that independence is for checks and balances, to ensure that Parliament is able to check what the executive is doing, and the judiciary is able to check both what executive and Parliament are doing if people go to challenge the decisions in courts of law. But also the second function that the doctrine of separation of powers serves is to ensure that no single person is too powerful to act away from the interests of the people or to abuse their powers. The third element that brings in checks and balances in governance and the multi-party dispensation is the role of the opposition. So I will speak about the three elements and how they play out in our current context. The NRM, of course, my biggest contestation comes at even the quality of multipartism that we have in the country. We started on the wrong footing. First, you have the Constitution, which provides that when one system is in governance, the other system is in abeyance. But if today it happened that Ugandans want to revert to the movement system, does that system exist for people to revert to, or is it in abeyance? You have NRM which carried a fraud from the movement system and coined the system as a party, bulldozing all the other parties in so many aspects. There is a hijack of fusion of state institutions with the NRM. There is a hijack of local government systems with NRM. The conduct of RDCs who are public servants, the conduct of the whole architecture of institutions is under state capture by NRM. A fraud that was manufactured in that transition. First, it was manufactured in the movement system, although we had a few voices contesting that fraud. But the fraud that was called the movement system was carried into a multi-party dispensation. So you have this unleveled ground for multipartism in Kampala and in Uganda, and total state capture of all institutions that are supposed to provide meaningful checks and balances for governance to deepen and take root in the country. If you look at appointment of people like head of electoral commission, I mean, these are cadres who can be even kneeling before a party. So if you can go and kneel in Changwanzi, how do you become a judge for everybody? How do you become a referee, an independent referee? You saw recently how the Chief Justice vulgarized the judiciary with the cheap tribal attacks. And Honourable Mwiru is active in practice. Some of us got lost in activism. If today Muganda had a case in Supreme Court, don't they have ground to ask Justice Owiny-Dollo to step away from the case? Because you don't know whether you are the lumpen he was referring to or the good Muganda. And how sure are you that he will be fair? If he's judging a case where Muganda is concerned, he should have resigned. If we had a normal country, Owiny-Dollo would have stepped down. After that unfortunate remark, the apology notwithstanding, because the apology is one issue, but the danger and damage of that remark will be the legacy of his tenure as a Chief Justice of Uganda. Very unfortunate. So if you go to the other governance institutions, of course the Electoral Commission is dead. I know they are our partners, but they don't exist. They are just there to announce what NRM wants to hear. People who were at the National Tare Center could not see the results that Justice Byabakama was reading. And I've said on several times that I find the problem using the title versus that name, given the conduct in the elections. Justice means truth and fairness. So when you have those two elements not existing, at times mentioning these titles becomes problematic. When you go to the functioning of Parliament, for a long time the caucus determines what Parliament does. So you have the caucus as a legislative arm. In brief, the others can debate. But when it comes to voting, the tyrant of numbers will have their way. But we have had incidences even where, for example, the UPDF attack on Parliament. And also previous, we had the UPDF attack on the Temple of Justice. So you have these contradictions in our governance, which people think is a young governance, but I don't think that at 60 years, which is our official retirement age, that at 60 years anybody can claim to be young. So we have failed to learn from history as a country. We see nothing, we hear nothing, and we learn nothing.
They have eyes, but they don't.
And we keep repeating the same mistakes, unfortunately, as a country. As we talk today, I do not think that the doctrine of separation of powers as envisioned by the framers of the Constitution exists in the country.
How unfortunate. Thank you, Sarah. And I'm going now to come to you, David, having covered Parliament for, I think, under tenures of more than one speaker. The question I want to ask comes from what Honourable Mwiru said. He said the speaker does not vote. So he thinks at the end of the day it boils down to the individual members of Parliament. what do you think, in light of the fact that we actually have a speaker, a former speaker, who has ever said that this amendment act of the Constitution, the age limit in this case passed because of her? But also, looking at all this, the previous speakers we've had, for example, the 6th Parliament is up to now said to be the best, most effective Parliament. Would you say it was the leader, Honourable James Wapakabro then, or the quality of MPs?
If you read the former Chief Justice's book, Benjamin Odochi, on the making of the Constitution, the search for national consensus, he described the doctrine of separation of powers as one would be having the 3 cooking stones. Once one is removed, the kettle that is boiling tea cannot hold firm. So you need to understand the role, the complementarity role of those 3 cooking stones. That if one is totally dead, the doctrine of separation of power jumps out of the window. It can't be sustainable. Now, what we are facing as a country is that our history, even when we journeyed into multipartism, we never sorted out certain things. And that's what Mugisha Muntu of their party keeps saying, of ANT, that we need to mobilize.
ANT, we call it
Yes,
ANT.
ANT. You need to mobilize as opposition so that you settle the issue of the disparity in numbers. Now, you can't have a functional parliament where one party bulldozes the rest. But it's partly because of our history. You can't blame it on opposition. However, the functionality of the one arm that is supposed to check is totally dead, in my view, as a journalist. Because there's a time...
The parliamentary arm, you mean?
Yes, the parliament, even the judiciary. You remember the debates towards elections when CCTV cameras captured the Chief Justice taking 2 of the State House. It became an issue within the opposition that this man is going to hear this case, but he has gone to the president to endorse the budget of the judiciary. Then within Parliament, I remember in around 2013, we reported a story that the former speaker didn't like, secondly, because the NRM caucus...
2013?
Yes, 2013.
So that is Rebecca Kada.
No.
That was Rebecca.
In 2013, it was Rebecca Kada.
There's a...
Maybe 2010.
2011, 2010, I think, towards the election, where the former speaker attended the caucus. So when we wrote the story, it was a headline that the speaker attends caucus, because the rules that time did not allow. So he summoned us in his office and told us, you see, there's what you see on face value. First and foremost, I'm NRM, representing a constituency here. Secondly, the president can summon anyone, can say, Mr. Speaker, come to State House. So you want a second to refuse to go to State House to meet the president because you have a rule that bars, and you journalists are amplifying it. But we are talking about the land amendment. There were certain amendments in the Land Act that they were trying to harmonize. So in essence, you might have on paper constitutionalism, power, the doctrine of separation of power, but what is the reality? I think Sarah tried to touch that reality when she said that you have a caucus-led parliament. That whatever NRM decides, it will be it will be on one of those rarest occasions that such a decision might not be carried by the entire parliament. Then the role of the dismal role of opposition. You can't blame them under the circumstances. They don't have numbers. They can't rally the public. They are mobbed, you see. So what happens to their organization is the failure of multipartism and the functionality of separation of powers in our country. Should it be squarely blamed on the failure by opposition to mobilize? Because if you have a functional parliament, the checks will be almost automatic. But in our case, the parliament is totally weakened. It is slanted on a certain party position. And you don't blame it on NRM anyway, in my view, because if the public sends NRM MPs to that parliament in huge numbers, you might blame the electoral process that manufactures them into that
the
house.
electorate.
But what is the ideal that Ugandans want? Do you want a tilted parliament, or you want a parliament that can take a stand, and even if it means impeachment of the president, you are sure of 50-50 swing of the vote? So the NRM has galvanized the control of every institution, like Sarah said. To any politician, that would be a good move. I can't envy them. But for proper democracy of the country,
facing charges of state capture. It's not normal.
if I'm the president and leader of NRM,
You
I would
also
want
be a
more
failure
numbers.
like this one.
I
Because you
want-
would collapse all the institutions.
I want more numbers of my party to be in parliament.
But which actually even Honourable Mwiru agrees with from the studies, right? They're the ones with the numbers.
Yes.
Yeah? And I that's what I wanted to ask. Does then having the numbers then mean that you appoint a speaker of parliament? Because that many other multi-party systems, how is it different there? Because at the end of the day, the interests of the sitting government take precedence. I don't know if that happens only here or if it happens in other countries. I think from my
What takes
reading,
precedent?
the interests of the party in power. I think it was only in the UK where the House of Commons in 1992 chose an opposition speaker, but largely it was also about the party with the majority
Even
selects.
in Ghana, I think.
Yeah, so how do you now balance having the majority in parliament, the party having the majority, but also ensuring that parliament stays independent? On whose, or that responsibility falls on who? Is it the electorate? Is it the MPs that have voted? Let me come in first, Sarah, please. Yes, so my question is, having that in mind, that the party like NRM here is going to only be interested, I don't know if it's the party or just President Museveni.
One is, if we had free and fair elections, we wouldn't have this kind of parliament. There are three issues that have led us such a kind of parliament where you have voting robots. The quality has gone down. The caliber of parliament, the nature of the caliber, the type of debaters, people were, sending off for Anya, it is clear they also admit that their quality is below standard. But the nature of elections, where money and violence, you have money, violence, rigging, three characters that produce a type of parliament that you have here, but also the parliament that serves the wishes of the dictatorship. So basically, you do not have a parliament that can carry out the functions as stated in Article 79 of the Constitution. Make laws for the peace, order, development, and good governance of Uganda. The second clause is defend the Constitution and promote constitutionalism. The Constitution is their first victim. It has been tortured on a number of occasions, and they wouldn't hesitate to torture it again, so long as the wishes, they must change the Constitution to suit the wishes of the dictatorship. So that is the kind of parliament that you have when you don't have free and fair elections. And that is why we have this output. You have money, the regime, the way it facilitates their candidates. Nobody has access to the consolidated fund like them. They have never even given accountability after elections. I think the first time they tried, they presented, I don't know how many billions, but now they haven't even filed their accounts for the last elections. Because they don't know also the source of money. It is fraud. They break into the treasury. One time the late governor confessed on how they broke into the treasury and caused inflation. So it is not something that is not known to Ugandans. So because they are the only ones with access, they pick all this money, dump it into the electorate. Among the other bad laws that tilt the ground, you have also money worsening the ground and then violence. And then rigging at the top that the Electoral Commission presides over. So that is why we have the kind of parliament we have. I don't think that it is the true wishes, values, and aspirations of the people have the nature of MPs that we have that are voting robots. Some of them were even surprised to be announced to winners. Yeah.
Okay, so thank you very much. So Honourable Mwiru, I'll pose the same question to you. You speak of having the majority in numbers, but what does that happen in all the multi-party systems, that someone whose party enjoys the majority does whatever they wish, or is there something fundamentally wrong here that we need to look into and probably see how to go about it as Ugandans?
Actually, in the parliament, supposed to be serious business. Maybe for the benefit of the viewers, parliament makes laws as a function, it appropriates, it carries out oversight. And of all those functions, I think it is in the interest of every Ugandan, whether you are for NRM or for NUP or for DP or for UPC, that those functions are performed to the satisfaction of every Ugandan. That is the best. But because the ruling government, which has the majority, has engaged in human rights violations, despite the Constitution creating an obligation on it to ensure that there's enjoyment of those rights, because they want to steal money through the budget, what we call budget corruption. That's why they are fighting for parliament. You understand? Because when we're in parliament, for example, of course it had been known, the Right Honourable Kadaga being maybe a woman and also having a populist approach, she would allow those who want to add their voice on the voice of another one to say something on the flank. Someone would stand up and say, let me add my voice on that one of Honourable Sarah, what they have said.
But how do you
You understand? and of course, that one, of course, she acted as a mother. That should give you a chance to add your voice. But
on the subject matter or
on the voice of another one. But whenever the Right Honourable Speaker, Jacob Bolanya, was in the House, it was serious business. Even the members would keep their matters of their village matters, which they call matters of national importance, and they wait. Because if you go to him, he will ask you, where is the nationality in what you want to raise? You understand? So that would disappear. So meaning that in the parliament, even if you go to the house, you'll be doing serious business. When it comes to enactment of laws, unlike the political laws, like the Public Order Management Bill then, which passed into an act, which came to curtail the enjoyment of freedoms of the individual, to which now the government wanted to use and curtail of particular individuals. You understand? In other laws, because it's a known principle, that the law must be blunt. It can't target a particular individual. But when I debate the parliament, they would say, Dr. Message is always in the market. Meaning that they had brought a law for Dr. Message. So it is only in those circumstances that now the ruling party needed the numbers to come and do what is unjustified. In other instances, is when they want to steal public money. You understand?
Yes.
Sending it in areas where the Uganda steal it, like transferred expenditure, defense and security, and creating some negative state house. You understand? That's when they would need the numbers. So to me, the question of numbers, because whether we want it or not, whether it's NRM or any other political party, one party will have the majority.
Yes.
The question is, how do we use the numbers? Is it in the best interest of the people or to pursue our personal gains? That takes us to me to the idea that even when they have those big numbers, they can't also use them. I just mentioned before, and my colleague Lumu was laughing, it looked funny, that even these NRM MPs whom you look at as being funny, on certain issues which affect the people, they also run away. That's why you hear that they are in Bwebaja, they are being mobilized. They are at this hotel of Zaichigongo. You know, these journalists, you know how they are mobilized. They are in the chief whip's office, they are being immobilized. Because if what they are doing is in the best interest of the country, why should they receive money? Remember the term limit?
Yes.
They received the money. The age limit, they were receiving money. Some bills, they said, so at the end of the day, that even those they claim to have in big numbers, you understand? They can also not use for the same. You understand? And that means that even these numbers they have, they're not necessarily their supporters. Just like us in the opposition, we proved that the approximately 140 members we have like 66 hours. The rest, they are wolves in a sheep's skin. You understand that they don't serve our interest, but they serve the interest of the party, the ruling party. Who knows? Maybe they joined us because the areas where they were contesting needed to be opposition in order to become member of parliament. So the same applies even to those big numbers of NRM. Because if they had them, and they all agreed that they have to come and follow sheepishly, do wrong things as they wanted it to be, they will not be voting, receiving money in order to vote in a particular position. So to me, numbers per se is not a very bad idea. It's not a bad idea. The question is, when do you use them? That's why you realize that when you read our constitution, it creates some certain instances where quorum is 2/3 of all members of parliament, like amending an interest provision. No, actually, say the amendment interest provision or in constitutional amendments. Because this would mean that you come and vote and you see whether your position is in the interest of the people voting to come to parliament. So the challenge we have been having as a country is President Museveni using parliament as his walking stick. You understand? But under normal circumstances, the question of numbers to me is not the big issue, because you see, even in parliament, we had standards. When we were there are certain colleagues who would speak. Even on our side, there were senior colleagues that if I was going to speak on a matter, and I see that Honourable Katonto has picked it, Honourable Nwagaba, so who are senior to me, you understand? I would let them present on a matter.
Don't add your voice.
I would not even add my voice. That is one. But two, and most important, I would give them way to speak on the matter.
Yes.
So there was even some acceptable conduct as a member of parliament. That's why that you see some the speaker, whenever some members would stand up to speak, even if they know that they are against what they are saying, they would give them a chance. Because they know you have something to speak, and the dictates is required. You understand?
Yeah.
That certain class of people in the parliament say something on the subject matter. Because they are adding to the realm of the existing knowledge on the subject. You understand?
Yes.
It is until that now people are adding voices, that even the idea of people sorting out themselves on the floor physically came in. You understand? Because, for instance, when we joined the parliament, I would not imagine that you would echo someone who is speaking. Because I know I had the capacity to meaningfully respond to what someone is raising and challenge by facts. You understand?
By heckling.
So that's why there were people who had been mobilized, that when we are talking, they echo us. So one time I asked the speaker that, you see, unfortunately, the way I was brought up, I cannot participate in such. So where is my place of work? I wanted to know. Because I cannot participate in the echoing, and the colleagues we were dealing with, they were busy telling us, finish your good English, stop your, and then we vote. Because they had been mobilized to come and vote on an issue. You understand?
Yes.
Meaning that Parliament deserves better. But also it goes back to the voters. You see, in our saying, they said that the goat give birth to a goat, the cow to a cow. A goat can't give birth to a cow because the chromosome numbers don't match. You understand? I think in terms of science, you can easily say that a goat gave birth to a cow. There would be a problem. You understand? Because the chromosome numbers don't match, so a cow gives birth to a cow and a goat to a goat. So these MPs whom we see, whom we keep on lambasting all the time, they are the finest of your places. You understand? And therefore, for me, when I see Agatha,
Yes.
I know who is your MP.
Katesh.
Yes, I know he's your finest. He found his way by whatever means he came. And if it was about the politics of economic fraud, he played it best of groceries. You understand?
No,
So you cannot say
he outrivaled who thought was the best.
the best. Yeah, because at one time, even the one who was there, you don't know what the man. I think it was Honourable Paul.
Yeah.
And the poor were not coming even closer to even to seeking for leadership in the area because the bourgeoisie. Then the comprador had taken over the space. So until Katesh came from URA, you understand, he bulldozed him financially out of the area. So the idea is not about the ideas, what you do in the parliament. It is about the financial muscle. So when we come to parliament, I think it is very unfair to start asking like your MP issues to do with parliament or with national issues.
Okay, Sarah, please say
I
what you
wanted
want
to
to
add
say and go for a
something
break.
that, whereas I agree with the Honourable Mwiru, and maybe quoting from Professor Baria, that a group of sheep can only be led by hyenas. We need to build civic competencies of the people, but also the people need on their own to pay interest to national issues so that they are able to elect suitable leaders in relevant positions. But I wanted to add an example of the US Senate on how they exercise their separation of powers or deal with the numbers. Because currently the Senate is a tie. It's 50-50 for Republicans and Democrats. And last night when they were voting for the Supreme Court judge, the first black woman,
Yes.
3 Republicans crossed the party line and voted with the
Democrats.
Democrats, and that's what brought to the 53-47 number. But the making of the Supreme Court, of the Senate, which makes the Vice President the chair of the Senate, the purpose is if they had voted all according to their party lines, they would have called in now the Vice President to break the tie. So that is their design for breaking the tie. She does not attend Senate, she does not have to be there, but when the two sides tie, then she comes in to vote, or whoever is the Vice President comes in to vote to break the tie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a break. When we come, I'll start with you, Tash. Tash, I wanted to tell you that David Lumu is in the habit of annoying speakers. Now, I didn't know about secondary, but I know that he annoyed Rebecca Kadaga so much that he was just out of parliament at that time, he and Kakairi, and they even went to court. So I think you'll have a lot of stories to tell us about how that selection process maybe has affected the quality of parliament. Or we'll go back to what is the role of the speaker at the end of the day. Why do we have a problem when a speaker is not maybe competent or impartial, yet the members at the end of the day are the ones that make a decision? We will be right back. Thank you for staying with us. We are glad you're still with us, and we want to pick up from where we left off. And I'm going to start with you, David Lumu, asking you the question of the president's desire to control parliament. It has been here for a long time. When you read the books of those who were in the 6th parliament, for example, they say the reason he appointed James Wapakaburo as National Political Commissar is because he was, presiding over a strong parliament or not towing his line as he wanted. So later there was Ayume, and when Sekande came, I think President Museveni didn't want Sekande because he said he's too DP. But Sekande still won against Ayume in 2001. My question, therefore, is why is it increasingly easier for President Museveni to impose a person, a speaker on parliament, when before maybe the first and second parliaments it was not that easy?
No, it's not correct to say that in the past it was easy. All those whoppers, the Ayumes, were his contemporaries, first of all, but you can ably say it's the one who actually made them. However, there is some change when the man appoints you, let's say in caucus. It is upon you as a person. If he appoints Sarah as speaker, for instance, you weigh your loyalties. Are you driven by the need to shape the national agenda as you are expected, or to keep serving the interests of one person? So that's a decision you make as a person. And you saw the calibers of those people. He put them there, but they reached there and made a stand that this is time to push for national agenda. I think on Wednesday made one of some key highlight. I think people missed it. He said, a minister called me that, sir, I want to contest as speaker. You see, even himself, he was giving an account of what transpires. That those who want to become speaker call first. And then he said, no, I told this man, you have a healthy related challenge. You cannot handle this speakership sitting in a chair for half a day. Point of order, point of... He made that revelation, which gives you a deep understanding of what takes shape in the formation of these offices and who is appointed there. Then the other revelation he made it, I think, during caucus meeting prior to these recent elections of speakership. He said that for NRM, it's not who, but the mission. Now, our analysis should focus on this mission. Why is the president saying it's about the mission?
What is the mission?
Yes, what is this mission? Have we
Staying in
unpacked
power.
it?
Staying in power.
No, you might think
There might be a different one.
there might be something deeper in this mission, and it will shape even these new speakers in that house. How you align yourself to that mission, or an alignment to that mission, will shape whether they stay there longer or be kicked out. So you need to get that chance that the NRM elects someone. With all her undoings, the former Speaker of Parliament, who is the first deputy, like Mwiru has said, there were times when you are covering that Parliament and she takes a stand. You never know behind the doors she's talking to the big man or powers that be and giving a contrary excuse, but on the floor, you would see that she has matured as a person who is taking the national interest ahead of the party interest. So it depends on the person in that chair. If that person is weak, and that's the challenge this new parliament is going to face, the 11th parliament, that is this someone who will always even first consult the party on a key particular decision you need to make in national interest? Will they be on tenterhooks to appease where they borrowed the power from, the circles, the deeper state that gave them that office? Or you emerge out of that cloud and form a decision that protects the institution, because even the former speaker, she had to make that move, because even the late Olanya, during the times he was chairing that house, you'd see that he's toying between a slippery road of politics, because you might never know which decision might annoy the powers that be. Because any leader who has that control and the caucus who can mob any decision, the moves are calculated depending on how you view the loyalty of that person. So it will depend highly on the character of the speaker. And with time, this character manifests because it is you and the people, not the party. The party might have, like Mwiru has been arguing here, there are some members within NRM who stand out, not because they don't love NRM, but because on issues of national interest, you must stand tall to be counted. You don't just sit there and come towards the time of voting
And they are called
and
rebels.
you are asking, by the way, what are we voting on?
They are named branded rebels. Eh?
They are not towing the party line.
Yes. So you,
Okay, I
you have,
can give you information.
Yes.
If you, when we were passing, when they brought that Lobowa hospital thing, the Committee of Parliament did due diligence and actually discredited the type of person the president was fronting for the same. Even even the minister we asked the minister of health that were you involved? She said no, she was not involved. So we're moving towards the direction of saying, look, let us empower let's pass this money for the Minister of Health so that we empower some of these facilities to be at that level. In the afternoon, when the things changed, when Adijan, they had the caucus. So when we came back, they were all muzzled. There was no debate, literally. So, because these vampires, after passing them for them the money, you know they did not even have 1.5% as stamp duty. You understand? So shortly, we saw another amendment.
Moderator, with your permission, I think it would be important to tell viewers out there whether this hospital exists or not, and how Uganda will recover its money.
Now I am coming to that. So they brought an amendment to exempt that company from paying stamp duty for the loan because they are borrowing locally from Stanbic Bank. I remember there's 1.5% stamp duty which they had to pay.
She didn't have.
She didn't have. So we said, but of course when they passed through forced the bill through our throats, but of course we opposed it and they had the numbers. So then later we heard that these people just shared the money. You understand? Yeah. No, the money of the hospital.
Of the hospital? Which
yes.
people?
The people in the government, I think President Museveni knows is a conspirator.
So money from the investor.
So money
it was from our money, so not for the investor.
For Ruaha Hospital,
for the hospital
was shared by regime people.
By regime people and then those who are involved. So now we said, okay, let us wait. So when you talk about Ruaha, they tell that, wait, these people are in the stages of starting. But it's now almost coming to almost 2.5 years back. And we are borrowing locally from Stanbic Bank, competing with the local investors. Because government gave those guarantees. And they got the money. So, but of course the speaker tried to put her foot down. But you see, we don't know what consideration were we passing this thing. It was pushed through all of us. And in the afternoon, in no minute, everything was done.
And the same person has been given more money for the coffee development, something.
You understand?
By the same regime.
So even the members of parliament at that, of course they knew. And you know what happened? Some ran out of it. They didn't want to be caught in when they lobby. The matter was put to vote. Whether there's quorum or no quorum is a different matter.
Let me ask a question. And I'll quote Kazora's book, Betrayed by My Leader, when he's talking about parliament, the 6th parliament, and saying, I sometimes wonder why parliamentarians behave like puppies. They have the power, the mandate, and the responsibility under Article 79, like Sarah had pointed out. What makes our MPs, who have, with all that power and privilege, do things like that? Like you're passing a hospital when you know that the person has no capacity to actually build it, when you have heard all those stories, but you go as people's representatives and do that. Is it the quality? Is it the money? Is it the circumstances that Sarah was talking about under which they come to parliament?
I think we need to be fair to these people. I've been telling like my voters that why I think I owe them a duty of care. It is because they vote me because of who I am, largely. other factors not withstanding. That's why when I go to Parliament, I know that they are my employers. You understand? And why I can take any bold decision in the best interest of them or the country, because I owe it to them. They made sacrifices in supporting me. They left the groceries, they were intimidated, they braved the rain, and they voted for me as an MP. So when you have substitute parliament and bring parliament, it becomes full of mobilizers. You understand, as members of parliament. The starting point, which even comes, many actually don't know why they're in parliament, by the way. Because I've interacted with some, and some think this is an opportunity to make some money. That's why they first get it wrong. The other is the manner in which they were elected. Those who rigged out someone with the help of the state, they cannot take any risky decision because they know they will rig them out next time. You understand? Those who paid money think they must recover the money through doing whatever is available in the parliament to earn the money. You understand?
So it's a combination of...
Yes, others at spade, because that's why the president normally leaves one slot. In the parliament, doesn't fill it with anybody. So whenever you are shouting about something, they say, by the way, you bring your CV.
Name,
Because there's this position of Minister of Justice. And from your looks and maybe the way you walk, you have a swagger maybe of a Minister of Justice. You understand?
Yes.
So men are held at ransom because they believe at any point
They
maybe
will
they can
catch
land
the eye of
that
the
appointment.
appointing authority.
So it must go back to us to appreciate why are we there as leaders. Because you don't think people are clamoring about. In my view, it's not what is important. Because if you travel and look at how developed countries have moved, I don't see even that's why we should have differences between people of various political parties. We should be striving to ensure that we plan for this country, put resources where people which will help to improve the country, so there's benefit for everybody. This is in my view. So even these minor disagreements within parliament, to me, they don't even arise. That's why for me, when I was guided by one principle. If you elect your fool for member of parliament, he comes to parliament. Once he's sworn in, he becomes a colleague, and I respect him as such. So for me, I just look at the people from where you come from, and I know Mr. Lumu sent me this man is not worth being an MP, but the fact that Mr. Lumu sent him is his best. So I respect him from that day as an MP, and we become friends. You understand? Because it's not his fault that the man is in parliament. If someone is in default, by default in parliament, and you want him to vote as to whether to allow the money to go to Lubowa, to someone who has no money to do anything, and you accept it, how do you want to go shouting about MPs? You understand? Those people you vote by default, who campaign by default, are not a representation of parliament, but a representation of society. You understand?
Yes. So
unless we address those circumstances, because people would intimidate you. That your government is going to fight you and come back to parliament. Do I stay in parliament? You understand? If you don't understand that, then you do a wrong decision. Two, I've been telling even colleagues from the opposition, many now fear to talk. See, the way things are going, there's going to be uncertainty. You can talk so loud, and they victimize you the way they victimized you. So you're better off playing safe, going to survival mode. You understand?
Yes.
You cannot have an institution like a parliament of members who are voted to go and speak. Once they go into survival mode, that's the end of the institution.
Yes.
You understand?
Yes.
And you see, there's nothing the president can do. We passed the the PPP, public-private partnership bill into law. I think he has been amending it ever since we passed it over now 10 times. Whenever they want to do something like a deal and they will put a clause in the interest of the country, they go back to parliament. And yet, when you go to America, for you to do a PPP, there must be a law, an act for a particular transaction you're actually going to do. Because in the best interest of the country. You understand? But now they did the PPP of Lubowa.
Okay.
You can't even question the Minister of Health when they refuse them to enter. you understand?
What do you mean you can't question?
You see, let me give an example.
The committee went there
the way they executed their PPP, because we had made it before that Parliament must approve a PPP. You understand? They went and amended it to ensure that the technical people can work on the modalities of a PPP and execute it from there. That's why when the Minister of Health went to Lubowa, Those guys that executed an agreement which gave those exclusive ownership over Lubowa, the site. And once they handed it over to the site, the people who are claiming to be the construction company, they gave them instruction not to allow anybody to come on site except with the express authorization. That's how Ministry of Health bounced at the premises. You understand? Because
Is it a partnership? Is it a sole proprietorship? What is it?
it's a PPP of some sort. It is like build, operate, and transfer, but the funding must come from Uganda. You understand?
Who is the final owner after
It will be Uganda. After they have recovered the money, we have guaranteed them to help them to borrow from
But
Stanbic
how can
Bank.
it be a
Is there
PPP
a
and the
time
funder
frame?
is the government of Uganda?
Is there a time frame?
Of course, there was a time frame, but now they have not even started the construction. So all those things will collapse. To me, my issue that they took the money. I'll give an example. When they were going to build the Karuma, Sino Hydro came in as equity financiers. When they were the first document they gave us in Parliament. They ended up being contractors. I'm sorry, but these guys were equity financiers at first. We even gave them our 15%, which was almost $300 million in the construction. They took it and then they looked for to come and help them to do the construction. But these things, someone who has come in to make some money in Parliament, first you want to read. You understand?
Yes.
You complain about the quality. When we join the Parliament, you not just talk. Because the people you found even on the floor talking, you do see whether you measure. You don't even stand up to add your voice. You understand?
To their voice.
Because you do see the debate, and the next thing takes you to the library to research on what you do. You should speak on. That's why I don't even agree with this business of giving them 2 minutes. For me, if someone had want to speak about something, can't even give 30 minutes. Because someone by 1, 2, 3, 4 minutes, someone would end. But when you limit them to 2 minutes, they add into under that adding voice, what they praise the speaker, then the minutes end.
And quality is the question I want to ask Sarah. We have seen and the Honourable Mwiru is also saying that the quality has really deteriorated of Parliament. We've seen scorecards and all that. Is that a question of, do you think it's the caliber of the speaker, the MPs? Is it both?
I think it's both, and I will explain it this way. There's a time President Museveni was campaigning in Busoga. I don't remember the constituency. And he told voters...
It was mine. Actually, he insulted me.
He
was telling people that they vote someone, even if you just wake him up.
So that was that in Bireete?
Yes, preferred an indolent, obsolete person to me, which was an insult.
Yes, he said it doesn't matter whether these people will speak or whether they will sleep. What I want is for them to wake up and vote NRM. So he did mention the mission of NRM. So the mission of NRM, as far as Parliament is concerned, are voting robots. They don't care whether you debate, whether you know what you are talking about, so long as you can wake up and vote.
And voting for what, ultimately?
What they want. Executive bills, executive agenda. That is the mission of NRM as far as Parliament is concerned. Can you vote? So, but if you look at the benefit of multi-party dispensation, I think the leader of opposition and his side should demonstrate leadership as a government in waiting. And because I don't think that as much as people have been talking of Oranya research, orientation, Oranya has been buried today, I don't think there will be any conversations about Oranya in 1 month from today. we all know the memory lapse of Ugandans. It does not go beyond 3 weeks. You think an issue is important, and the government has mastered that. Why they keep shamelessly repeating scandal after scandal. They know that Ugandans cannot concentrate on a matter after 3 weeks. Everybody is lost in their struggles or hustles, and there is a new scandal coming. We forget this one and move to another issue. So I don't think that the new leadership in Parliament is passionate about image of Parliament, about caliber of debate, or matters that they deal with being pro-people matters. I don't think. But maybe I will be surprised. We can give them a benefit of the doubt. But I don't think, as of today, that the Right Honourable Anita Mong and my friend Taebwa are concerned about image of Parliament. I don't think they are concerned about quality of debate in that house. I don't think they are concerned about paying attention to the issues that concern the people as captured under Article 1 of our Constitution. And that can be demonstrated by the recent, I don't know how to call it, the recent move the Deputy Speaker pulled off, like arriving at Parliament like Rambo in the movies.
I didn't see that.
Then you need to know the leaders you are talking about. I think if that is the image my friend Tayebu really wants to demonstrate, that I can have security, running around, cocking guns, and I jump out of the car like Chuck Norris, please, my friend, you are in the wrong place. So we are yet to see. We can only give them a benefit of the doubt. Yeah.
So David, I'm going to ask about what Honourable Mwiru says, that's your best. Yeah, he first said the goat can't give birth to a cow.
Yeah, and the crowd of...
I didn't just say it is science. The chromosomal numbers don't matter.
But the comparison here, I want to see if David agrees with you, because at the end of the day, Sarah had earlier talked about how they come to the money, and so you might find exactly you might find that the best in that constituency does not have access to the money and the rigging.
Of course, we have many good Ugandans,
yes,
that have given up on elective politics.
What is your view that our leaders are represented, or a reflection of our society as Uganda?
No, if you are to analyze our country in its format and shape currently, the intellectuals have abandoned the political space and left it to whoever it may concern. That's a signal of danger in our country. You see, people are now in bars, comedy nights, etc. Then the intellectuals are just folding hands, watching the movie from the...
Why is that?
And that tells that there's some sense of resignation from politics. Now the electorates that have been left to deal with the political issues are also not civically alert. Then the entire concept of monetization of the political space is actually the cancerous cell that has eaten any sensible person in this country can never engage in politics. Unless you have money to burn, like the Paul Mwirus of this world.
They do.
They might have that money to burn. Because
no, they don't want to give up on their account.
So, if the generation, you can even mention the judiciary, the underdealings, the undercurrents that are shaping our current society, don't pinpoint to something fruitful. Any sector is dead. Corruption has eaten through the roots of the entire country. So you can't even blame Parliament alone. Even the executive, you see, if you are to weigh the quality of ministers, remember when the president had just come to this country as a leader, the likes of Mama Mbabazi were state ministers, the Mushegas, the Kaijuka. To be a minister was something of great importance to the country, that you don't just pick someone. But now there's a transition from that old generation to our generation. Even the current speakership, the composition, they are below 50, but some people are already saying that they might not manage, you see. Why is it that? Why is it taking shape in that form? That even the first cabinet, the transitions in this country, young people used to take charge of the affairs of the country. Even if you are to talk about the NRA war, the breed of fighters were young people. So how come this generation of the Musevenism the NRA generation, people born in 86, are not trusted that much. It tells you something that is eating the fabric of society, that you can't trust a generation to take charge from the old guard. The moment you say young man in a position, you start to question that what is it? Yeah, there's some dealership they are trying to impute that with young people. So it casts doubt on the political space in our country. But we also have to be mindful that maybe there is a general a general this configuration of society. It is not guided. You can just imagine the 20 years of people in the north who have suffered war. That entire generation is lost. They come to Kampala, they don't have any relative to groom or shape the understanding of first of all, the morals, because you don't blame them. Their generation was wiped out. So there is something that has eaten society. We need to rebuild. And that's where the leaders should come in. For instance, Mwiru here, how many youth have you groomed in your constraints? Not for politics, we might ring fence your political space, but as a generation to take over from you. I think that's lacking in our community, and the implications are what you have seen in parliament, in the judiciary, in any sector of the country. The leadership, the routing, no spirit of the country.
Honourable, David is challenging you to tell us the young people you have groomed. But before you say that, I wanted to begin from what he said, that they may not manage. That's the feeling that we have about this current leadership of parliament. And I think it comes from what we were saying earlier, that allowing Museveni to appoint speakers will erode its independence and ultimately quality. Because at the end of the day, President Museveni knows that someone who is maybe smart might not, do what he wants all the time.
If I may ask, because he covers parliament, and I don't know whether you covered the rest. Whatever you trade in the night, citizens will get to know. So you can imagine the level of bribery. The rumor is that $10,000 went per SEC member before the decision was taken, and then a promise of more money after. To what extent did you as media capture these money issues?
For media to get firsthand the story of money, Mwiru hinted on it, that in the last speakership race, the opposition member got 15 votes. To even an average mind in the country, that one already raises some doubt that if this time they tried, you have to give it up to the leader of opposition. But how come even our opposition people cannot vote us? That indicates that there was some groundwork at the night. But for the media to chase that story that involves night money.
Did you hear about it?
Yeah, it is all over parliamentary corridors. It's not a secret that some money was touched in
I will tell you, for
pockets.
example, that in the first race of 2021, the opposition people were among the leaders of getting money from one of the candidates, but for deputy speaker. And I can mention names, but let me leave it, because you go get a sack and go. So, and that is a question we need to now also put into perspective. So we are saying that the president is appointing them, but we are saying that there are other factors that come in.
Yes, especially for this race. Rumors circulating is people buying SEC. So it's not even about the president. And the president, by the way, there are four people who did not vote for the current speaker. They included the president. So I think we should also excuse him from the blame.
No, because the reports I got were not about money, but were about the president actually foregoing corruption allegations against
4 people who
the current speaker.
had reservations. And it was a syndicate. Make this one speaker and the deputy is so and so. So for people who, according to the story, because I was not there, so I have to inform viewers that it is
And it is
secondary
hearsay.
reported information.
Yes,
Yes, that when the president and the 4 people had a contrary view, and then looking around, the other people, of course, who were ready to act as voting robots said, no, we have a president, we have a president, we have a president, and that's how the deal was closed.
Let's first hear what Honourable Mwiru says
Well-
about it. He participated in. I don't think if you ever actually voted for a speaker, Honourable Mwiru. He always came when the.
Oh, he was the one delivering the man.
Please tell us, Honourable.
That's one thing. But first, the question you put first, as to whether the current speakers will manage
Yes.
the House. My view is that actually, I think if they conducted themselves as per the rules and accepted to learn, they can manage.
There are also provisions for going for training.
Yes,
For 2 months.
that's one. But also two, if they don't try to engage into underhand method of conducting the House, they will manage. You see, when I was appointed the vice chairperson of Public Accounts Committee, there was debate whether I would manage. At least
Why?
you covered some of
Did
the
they
sessions.
doubt your capabilities? Or?
No, of course they looked at age. They related at my age, and then too there were senior members there who were not appointed for reasons based on to the appointing authority. By then, I think would be only fair that we gave an opportunity to Honourable Anita Mongo as the Speaker and the Honourable Tayewa, notwithstanding that these are my former colleagues in FDC. Of course, these guys, the two of them are learned guys. I may not watch for other areas, but what I can say, that they are learned enough if they try to take advice from the technical people on how Parliament is conducted. You understand? They would perform. I saw when they were presenting the budget for the body of the Deputy Speaker. Once the minister put it on table, laid it on table, they said no debate, and then they said the House was adjourned.
Sorry, there was no debate.
Yes, then the Speaker said, this is just for information purposes. But of course, he did not have.
was
But how do you
there was the Deputy
budget
Speaker.
for-
Of course, what he did not maybe have, he already the House an explanation that this was a statutory budget, a supplementary of a statutory budget, which of course is referred to just for purpose of scrutiny. You understand? But it's not passed to omnibus as it is brought without looking at it the way it is. I think he owed the House. You understand?
That
because some of us who have been in the House, you understand? The way it was done, I think the technical did brief him very well. But there was also room for them to learn. As the question would be, how much are they willing to learn? Like I've been seeing, there's a new tendency I've seen them do. You see, the Honourable Jacob Olanya, the rate, because he's, if you give you a chance and say, Jinja East would allow you to speak, will not interject. Then at the end, it will overrule you. And so now remember, you rose on the point of procedure. I've had the benefit of listening to you, and there is nothing to do with the procedure, you're out of order. You understand? But I've seen instances where a member is talking, someone, speaker is interjecting. But of course, in our rules, the speaker is listened to in silence. And once you are speaking, the speaker starts to speak, you must sit. You understand? So that you listen to the words of wisdom from the speaker.
Yeah.
You understand? But the challenge turns out that it's just an interjection is debating in your time. You understand? Of course, some members would fear. But the bold one like myself, I'll tell you that you see, Madam Speaker is supposed to be listened to, or Mr. Speaker, listen to in silence. You have given a man opportunity to speak, and then you are the one speaking. I don't know that you are making my point. You understand? So to see, for me, if they improved, because she must extend an olive branch to them, to see them do some of the things they're supposed to do. On the other issue, I cannot pass it. You see, I may not participate in the room. Of course, when you hear the issue to do with money,
Yes.
you are actually
We wanted to know if
actually
anyone
you
ever
are
approached
actually
you.
raising. You see, when they asked for application for members, of course, we needed to know the parameters on which they are basing to say this is the person. You understand? Because it is their party, they don't know how they are dealing with their democracy. And during COVID, we passed some amendment to allow parties do their politics, their internal democracy, the way they know it.
Yeah.
You understand? According to, and they were choosing a candidate basing to the House that their candidate had to sail through. Not being in possession of the criteria they used, you understand, in arriving at those candidates. I may not be in a position to say whether the decision, the right issue must have been swayed by some other factors. Because, for instance, like in some organization, if I was the leader, loyalty and service would be among them. I would look at the experience, you understand. I would look at the previous work of someone, like what is your record in this thing? How have you handled it? You understand? To show them too, because if we are denied such a criteria, then that's where there would be a problem. I'll give an example. Even us in the opposition, we had a law where we had said that the most senior member of the opposition in parliament would automatically become the leader of opposition. But you know politics, in FDC, but you know politics is politics. When they wanted to curtail Honourable Alaso from being a leader of opposition at one time, the game changed to voting. You understand? Little did we know. You see, these politicians, with due respect, they're almost all the same. Because these people looked at Honourable Alaso as a woman, as an authority lady with integrity from the East. You understand? So our leaders knew that now she becomes an issue in the body politic of the country. Because the East has very many districts, and if she came to offer herself, maybe the East would be yearning for a leader from there. So they said that now we have to vote as a NEC. So I learned also later. Why? Because I also asked, because this business of voting brought controversy. That people would rush now at the party leader to say, I want to be leader of opposition. I want to be leader of opposition. You understand? So it is until when General Montu became party president that, remember, Honorable Alaso, Honorable Katuntu, those guys were on our side that supported him. So ordinarily people would have expected that Honorable Montu was supposed to vote for either Alaso or Katuntu to become the law. He said, no, I must vote for someone who didn't support us. So that we make it a culture that when you compete with someone,
he wasn't the most senior in.
He was not, because also now dealing to stabilization of the party. Then also to show that when you compete with someone, doesn't become an enemy. Some people say, but now Honourable Alaso has suffered twice. The other time,
but
she
was
become.
in parliament then?
She was.
Yes, she was.
Yes,
that's when they made her chair park.
Yes, we are saying she has suffered twice. The first time they hit her. Now this time around, she's undergoing an experiment of stabilizing the party and ensuring that when you compete, someone is not actually an enemy. So, but the point I'm making in this, that we need to have very clear criteria on who becomes what. Just take an example of these ministers. You say a minister would have done some course in executive drafting. You understand that they know even how these bills come across. But they come in parliament when it comes to bills. And say, where they pick this one? You understand? No idea, no nothing. So it's a puzzle. So in the future, because this one, they have already been elected. Whether they are the best or not the best, they are in office. So us as leaders, we have a duty to accord them the necessary support to the extent when they are acting within the confines of the law. The other issue maybe is the power they withhold. You know, politics has been degenerating. You see, for us when we were in parliament, like I'll give an example. I never used to vote the speaker, but when I came in, I would respect both speakers, the speaker Kadaga and the owner Olanya. But to the extent of when they are doing their work within the confines. But if anybody went out, people know Kadaga was my friend, but I would tell her that no, this is not proper. You understand? Because our relationship would be about to be terminated, basically if you are going outside. Like I liked Honourable Olanya because he commanded the law He would keep time. You know, he appreciated the way when he was in the house. But at times he would muzzle some a member on the floor, and then you even hold your head. Like one time he told Honourable Chamadidi that please stop popping up like popcorn, sit down. So I think if there's anybody who was humiliated, it's Honourable Chamadidi. You understand that he did not have that diplomacy. For him to tell it to you the way it is, because the member is speaking, is talking. Why are you popping up like popcorn? So you can wait the member to say that was the most right thing to do.
Okay, Honourable,
you understand? So in summary, we need to go back to what is the criteria. You know, when we were creating districts, we kept on asking in the parliament, what is the criteria of creating these districts? Nobody was talking. Everybody was saying, I have mine, you push it in. I have mine, you push it in. But what is interesting, most of those who are pushing those districts at the selfish interests, they lost. They didn't win.
I am not as optimistic as you are about the current leadership.
Leadership in parliament.
In parliament, you were talking about if they were eager, willing to learn.
From the technical people.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, there's a saying that he who pays the piper calls the tune. And that's what happens when people go into positions and they know they went into them because someone handpicked them or they paid money, like we are hearing.
No, sure, I agree with you, but you see now, let me tell you, she knows, and him, that's the one, maybe you may know, that you cannot defeat natural law. You understand?
No, they are in office.
They are in office. But if they don't play as per those, they will never sustain. You understand? Anything they will do, not what I was supposed to, it will never be sustained. They can muzzle members, they can intimidate them, they can do what, you understand? But that they will never sustain whatever they are doing. So for them to succeed in that office, that's what I'm saying. They must listen to the technical people. You understand? Because there are things which you see in parliament, which actually never used to happen.
Actually, Honourable, succeeding does not depend on whether, it depends on whether they do the bidding of, but that's not for me to say, and I think we are running out of time. I had wanted us to maybe, if we can in 2 minutes each discuss this whole education fund for Honourable Lanya's children and his dependents. And my question, I'll start with you, David Lumu, is this an indictment on the education system, UPE and USE, that the government brought? Because if they know that those children must go to overseas or Seroma, where some were, what do you think about that?
No, it's it has a history. Remember, the Olanyas and the Mars actually written something about their strike at Makerere. That when they were about to be expelled, Justice Platt led the commission of inquiry. So they were stuck. They approached a law firm, and that lawyer was called Dolo. He's the one who saved them from being expelled.
The current Chief Justice?
Yes. He told them that these regulations were not enacted by Parliament. It doesn't. They don't have
Force of law.
Yes, force of law. So they went to the commission and they relayed the opinion of Dolo. So when you see Dolo emerging with this fund as a friend, for me, I see it as a friendly gesture. Yet, yes, there might be undercurrents of the UPE state scholarships that is beginning to emerge from that act. But these are doing it as a friendly gesture to their body. To that extent, I give them a benefit of doubt. However, we must also cast a torch into the quality of our education systems in the country, the award of scholarships in the country, because it would be good for Olanya's children, quote in quote. I heard Honourable Peter Ogwang say there are over 200 that he has been looking after in terms of paying fees and all the necessary accompaniments. So on one hand, these are friends grouping up to help their buddy. On the other, the public is saying, no, this guy had a multi-billion enterprise. Speaker 10 years, MP.
Deputy Speaker, yes.
He's not a man of luck that he would want to be supported, but let's give the friends some benefit.
So Sarah, I wanted to ask the same question. What is your view about it? that shouldn't people in government, like Olanya was for a long time, and the ones that are furthering that, instead advocate for an education system that that people can afford and trust that it is.
You know, it's a verdict on the so-called free or universal primary education and universal secondary education. I think we need to change the name to subscribed primary education and the subscribed or government parent partnership. Because the truth is, there is no free education in Uganda. Everybody pays money. So I don't know why we carry on with this fallacy of free education. And this example of Oranya, which is very good and should be supported, demonstrates the hopelessness of the people. There is no free education. NRM should stop writing in their manifesto that they are offering free education. It does not exist. People pay, even where classrooms don't exist. We have seen schools, children studying under trees, children sitting on bricks, children taken by water, but they pay. Their parents and guardians part with money. There is no free education in this country. We should stop that fallacy and call the type offered the name that is suitable.
Honorable, if you could, in 1 minute also, sum up what you...
Well, for me, I see in Africa there's that excitement and maybe empathy when someone has passed on. It's not only with the late Right Honourable Speaker. Even in our own families, when someone passes on as politicians, they used to go and say, no, that this man was my friend, so I'm going to take over for all the children.
Yeah, those are princes.
But immediately they move the next time, they call and say, hello, where is the school fees? The MPs don't, the politicians not even pick, they don't even get it back. In my view, Honourable Anya passed on. So it is high time those whom has been taken care of find another viable option, because people will lie. After 3 weeks, as Madam Sarah has said, people will forget about the memories of Honourable Anya.
They do that already.
About the family, we passed that act
The pensions,
in the Parliament, and it created what I've not addressed my mind on, as to whether those benefits would go to the Speaker who has passed on, because they were accruing to a Speaker who is leaving, a former Speaker, President, and those benefits. But as to whether when you pass on, whether these benefits would still be entitled to, that one I've not addressed my mind to. But even then, of course, someone who has been an MP for those terms, you will have the benefits.
But the benefits go to the family.
Yeah,
Yes,
they do.
they
So
got the
must
family.
Retirement benefits.
So I don't want to dramatize and embarrass the deceased. Like in case I passed on, I don't want that drama. You understand? You see those things. I want here to be given a decent send off, so that I'm respected as someone who has worked. Mature can pick it from there. I want it to be done the correct way. I know people may misunderstand, but I don't want that pretense.
Okay, thank you, Honorable. I think we have come to the end of our time. Thank you very much for coming. But as I close, I wanted to expound more that my skepticism of the current leadership is not unfounded. We saw what happened to Honorable Zake's removal from the commission, and it was very strange that the accuser was the one who ended up passing judgment in such a haste that it was it was so important. Also, the mining bill was passed
Without debate.
Without quorum, without debate consultations in the committee. When someone raised the issue of quorum, the speaker said, no, but we have been going by the SOPs, COVID SOPs, and we have been sitting 100 people per sitting. So to her, quorum meant 100.
So
yet there is a constitution.
The constitution.
I know. So for me, that's what maybe that will change. I don't know if the president has already assented that bill into law yet.
Do you know the import of that law? It's almost taking away minerals, like people have been mining sand in their villages.
And that's what happened.
You understand? Because I had the benefit of it. Now they're taking all the power.
Let me add you
some
information on that bill.
Yes.
When the committee asked for more time to give all the stakeholders time to consult with them, They were told, they were first given 2 weeks, then after they said, no, 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 the president wants this thing passed now. And we started by talking about the president and his and his. So I don't know. I think if the MPs are watching this show, they should know that this show came here to really shine a light on that, on what is happening there. That we are not going to keep quiet, and we are going to find out everything done under the earth. You can't hide them. We end up knowing who got $10,000 in SEC. But thank you very much for watching, and we are going to expect you next weekend when the show continues with the third edition of the Focus on Parliament. Thank you.